Thank you, Eric. Can you hear me, Will?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon, colleagues. Very warm welcome. Also thanks to our partners, IJUS and UNEPDTU for organizing this webinar series. And thanks for the kind introduction, Eric, and opportunity to present ADB's work. ADB has been engaged with carbon markets for a long period of time. And one of the channels that we pursue is mobilize carbon finance through our trust funds to support mitigation projects in Asia and the Pacific. So in that context, we established Future Carbon Fund way back in 2009 to mobilize carbon finance through the purchase of carbon assets or CDM-CERs. For the benefit of the financing partners, but at the same time supporting our developing member countries in Asia and the Pacific to mobilize additional carbon finance to incentivize mitigation actions or to provide additional revenue to the projects, which could help them to overcome some of the barriers those low carbon technologies oftentimes face. So in that sense, ADB, as a trustee of the Future Carbon Fund, has been working as a CDM-CR buyer. And I'm very happy that, we have been very careful in selecting the projects, in also assessing these SD impacts of individual projects, playing the fiduciary role ADB does have. And in that context, we have been very, very selective in terms of the projects, and also making sure that the counterparts that we would engage in CDM-CR transactions do also make conscious efforts, not only in delivering co-benefits for the local communities, but also recording and reporting in their own sense. So what we have done through the Future Carbon Fund, we supported 33 CDM projects. And then these projects are located in 10 different countries in the region. So, we have done an assessment of those projects while assessing the social, environmental, and economic impacts of the projects. While we did that, we also kind of recorded their intended as well as unintended projects. But and these impacts were then assessed to a research-based report that we came out with, and this report was published. And ADB has been, as Eric very kindly mentioned, that we have been quite vocal that especially after the advent of Article 6 under the Paris Agreement, that the countries should be requested to encourage the project developers to monitor the SD impacts of individual projects and report the SD impacts, and that will become very useful for the carbon assets buyers. And ADB has also been quite vocal, including in this report, making a strong recommendation to the Article 6 negotiators to provide suitable provisions in Article 6 rules, so that the SD impacts being delivered by different mitigation projects are duly captured in the public reports, and those can be a very good input for the carbon asset buyers in making decisions which projects to support, and also determining the prices that they would like to pay for individual carbon credits from individual projects. So I'm very glad, like Karen mentioned, at the outcome of the rules at Glasgow, and very happy that this has been duly recognized and included in the rule book. And we do think that some of the experiences that we as an institution, ADB, has been able to implement in the Future Carbon Fund could be useful in implementing Article 6. So very happy to share our experiences here. So on the top, first of all these pictures are real pictures from the project supported by the Future Carbon Fund. None of these are stock pictures. These are real project pictures. So the FCF study, first of all, when we were building the project portfolio, meaning by purchasing credits, entering into transaction, our team was very, very careful in selecting the projects. most of the projects that supported by FCF were funded by ADB. That means those projects would comply with ADB's safeguard policies. The due diligence would be done, and those due diligence report was made available to the project, to the FCF team. But at the same time, the FCF team was also very careful in making sure that the projects are not only reducing tons of CO2, but also making lots of contribution towards the sustainable goals of the local, for the benefit of local communities, and also meeting with the national criteria. So while we were very careful in selecting and building a portfolio, at the end of it, we just wanted to take stock of what has been the real accomplishment. And that's the time when we went out, talked to the local communities, got their feedback, and then we assessed different types of co-benefits being delivered. And then we mapped those co-benefits to the SD impacts. And that's what was captured in this report. So what the outcome was that the FCF portfolio is making very positive contribution to the lives of more than 10 million people. And the projects are delivering a very wide spectrum of SD impacts, ranging from improved access to energy, to employment generation, to health benefits, to enhance opportunities for education, and reduce dependence on fossil fuels, technological innovation, and so on and so forth. So this was very, very heartening for us, that the hard work done by the team while selecting the projects was really at the right place. On this slide, as you can see, that these are the numbers of different types of co-benefits, that these are these are the kind of outcomes. The important thing that what we learned out of this report was that while it is very well acknowledged that the mitigation projects do generate a number of co-benefit, but it is also possible to quantify those. It is possible to quantify those, it's possible to report those. And once you are able to report those, you are also you are able to relate those co-benefits or SD impacts to different SDGs. And that's what we did in this report. So we went to individual projects, looked at the different co-benefits, different SD impacts, and then mapped those to different SDGs. And the outcome was really very, very exciting. We found that the projects are not only contributing to SDG 13, which they were originally meant to be, they were also quite, significantly contributing to SDG 4, for example, SDG 1 on no poverty, SDG 8 on decent work, SDG 5 on gender balance, SDG 9 on innovation. Of course, we were mobilizing carbon finance to support advanced low carbon technologies. So let me present one example very quickly here. This is the Gachu hydropower project in Bhutan that was funded by ADB's 126 megawatt run of the river hydropower project. This generates power, and power is exported to India, where it displaces equivalent amount of power that would have otherwise been generated by carbon intensive grid. So while the project is achieving a lot of benefit that it was originally meant to be, but if you look at the co-benefits, it brings about enhanced energy access to, say, about 5,000 households, which is a great accomplishment. Brought electrification in the local district. It reduced indoor air pollution, because by the enhanced energy access, people were able to shift from use of firewood to electrical appliances in the kitchen. Better transportation facilities and additional classroom and education facility for the children. So this is, the idea is, if the project is designed well, it is implemented well, it has the right resources, and it is duly monitored, then the project can bring a lot of co-benefits. That was our lesson. And here's another project, a wind power project in India, Maharashtra district, which again is funded by ADB through its private sector operations. And the corporate, which was supporting the project, the Tata Power, has made very conscious efforts to make sure that as a part of their CSR program, they are supporting local communities. The picture that you see down there is a local school in the vicinity of the project site, where with ADB support, they built infrastructure in the school, including this dining hall and a kitchen. So while the project itself brought additional employment opportunities and the infrastructure that was built around the project brought new roads, better access to the local people for their day-to-day life. It also helped the other communities like school children. Many schools were supported. So part of the program was supported by the Tata Power. So some of the challenges that we think project developers or countries actually face, what we have understood, there is usually there is no baseline information about the co-benefits, and there are no processes or no requirements for the project owners to do a systematic monitoring and disclosure of co-benefits, which I hope after the Article 6 rule books are getting implemented will be a better infrastructure, a better regulatory infrastructure for implementing it. But we also realize there's a lack of standardized methodologies. There are multiple methodologies, but I mean, those methodologies do vary in terms of the kind of co-benefits they're able to capture. We also realize that not all co-benefits can be quantified, even though I said that co-benefits can be quantified to a large extent, not all can be captured. And some of the SDG targets are not very well aligned to project level interventions. And finally, the MRV of the co-benefits can be very expensive, and that could mean additional cost. So key lessons from our work for the project entity: the project design plays a very important role in the kind of co-benefits that the project is likely to generate. It's very important to have very open dialogue with the local stakeholders, and open dialogue can actually enhance the co-benefits. Corporate social responsibility, as I mentioned through the example of Tata Power, if the corporates are very keen for delivering benefits, it can play a very significant positive impact on the quantum of co-benefits. Governments, through the domestic policies, can play a very important role, can play a very enabling environment for corporates to deliver co-benefits. And for carbon asset buyers, as I mentioned earlier, they can play a very positive enabling support for mitigation projects that deliver co-benefits by way of choosing the projects which deliver a greater number of co-benefits, or by also incentivizing by providing suitable incentivizing carbon prices. And they can actually include the delivery of certain co-benefits in the purchase agreement so that it becomes part of the deliverable under the contracts. And very important, and that's my last point, is that if carbon asset buyers can provide an assured stream of carbon finance by providing a fixed price contract, and wherever possible upfront finance, it can provide very important support and assurance for the project developers to work in tandem with the local government authorities and also local communities, so that the co-benefits from any mitigation projects can actually be maximized. So I will be very happy to answer any questions on this webinar, or even on a bilateral basis after this webinar is over. But before I part, let me also say I highlighted a point that there is a lack of standardized methodologies, but ADB is working on this direction. We are working on a methodology that will support governments and also project entities to assess and the quantified co-benefits, and also do the reporting. That will be a topic of one of the later webinars that we will organize as a part of this series. So thank you very much, and back to you, Eric.